What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another tutorial. Now in this video we are going to be talking about Apify and what it does, how can you use it, the functionalities, and plus I'm going to be showing you some of my own results and some of my own use cases that I've been doing with this app. Now first of all, what is Apify? Apify basically allows you to extract data from any website. Apify is the one-stop shop for all your web scraping, data extraction, and robotic processes automation needs. And so what's beautiful about Apify is that you can basically get any data and turn it into an API. So in some cases, there are some apps, or a lot of apps, they have APIs. So you can basically connect to the app's API and start using it, right? A lot of the apps we use, a lot of the websites we use, they have their APIs. But if one reason or another you really don't have access to the API, or you don't really want to mess with the API, you can use a tool like Apify to pretty much make an API for your specific use case, okay? And so they have a generous free plan. You can sign up. And so I'm going to go to my dashboard right now. I'm going to show you exactly how everything works, as well as I'm going to show you my own use cases for my own needs. And so here I am in the dashboard. And on the left-hand side, you have the dashboard, you have tasks, you have actors, schedule, storage, proxy, and marketplace, okay? And so in the first screen, you're basically seeing some tutorials here, which is probably a good idea to get started. You have the discover, store, actors, and marketplace. And so let's talk about actors first before we start talking about tasks. Actors are basically custom-made pieces of code that are made for a specific use case. So for instance, these are my actors, the ones that I've been kind of playing around with and testing. And this includes Airbnb, Amazon, Booking Scraper, Screenshot, Hello World, and Web Scraper. But you can find a lot of these actors in their store, and what they have is a marketplace here. And so if you go to apify.com/store, you're going to see a lot of different basically pieces of code or actors that Apify is calling that allow you to do a lot of interesting things. So for instance, you have different tabs here, but if you are looking at all actors, you see the web scraper, Facebook pages scraper, Google search results, Instagram. So there's a lot of interesting actors, or pieces of code that pretty much anybody can use in their own needs. Okay, and so we have Google Maps scraper. This is an example here, Hello World example, contact details, etc., etc. And so let's say you want to use a Google search results scraper. All you really need to do is click on it, and then you can basically learn more about it, right? So here's a little bit of a description here. You have a little bit of data, last run, few seconds ago. So somebody is running it, and it's being used. It was used almost 1 million times, used by 5,650 users. And then you have different features here. You can look at the API. This is what the API looks like. This is a call here. You can look at Node.js. You could look at the Node.js call. This is if you want to write code, Node.js code. This is basically a sample here. You just have to replace the token. And if you want to do a curl request, you can do it using this situation. All you need to do is basically copy, and then you can start using it. Okay, now we can go to the input, and then you can basically see the input here. Now you can see it in the table form, and you can also see it in the JSON form. And so table is probably a little bit easier to kind of parse and to understand. We have the country, we have the language, you have a lot of options here. And then if you want to just get started, my recommendation is just basically take the JSON code and just modify it along the way and just basically use that. Continuing on, we have the example data here, and you can basically, it's going to take a few seconds to load, and now we have the data. And so this is basically a call, right? So this was basically a call. There's the input, and you can basically look at this raw call. You can download it, take a look at it. You have key value store. There's various keys. You have a data set. You can basically preview data, and this is the data that we are basically getting back. You have the input, and then you also have the source code, which you can basically view on GitHub, okay? And so if you want to use it, you can basically click on this and try it for free. I already basically imported a lot of these actors, so we're going to go back to my dashboard, and I'm going to show you some of the actors that I imported. So I basically imported Airbnb, just to kind of play with. And so if I go, let's say I want to do an Airbnb scrape, right? Basically click on it, and I see all the information here. And this is an actor, so this is generic stuff that everybody's going to see. It's going to change when I basically start to run my own tasks, which is here. But right now, I'm basically viewing the generic screen. There's an API key. I have the input here, and this is the general input, okay? And this is exactly how it is, like, you know, generically off from the store, right? The location is the defaulting to Sacramento. You can basically start different URLs as well. And if you want to learn it, just basically click on this question mark, and you're going to learn, right? URLs of Airbnb details, not search URLs. When set, the actor will ignore location query and will return results based on those listings, right? So you have an option. You can basically specify a location when to search different things, and it's going to go out and it's going to get the details and the detail listings and all that. Or you can basically give it the detail listings, and it's going to parse the data for you. And so it really depends on your use case. If you have, let's say, some listings ready and you just want to keep parsing those, then you can basically add URLs, you can upload a text file, and you can also link remote text file as well. And so you have all these options here, right? Maximum reviews 1,000. You can specify check-in date, checkout date, minimum price, maximum price. You can include a calendar, and that is, if checked, includes the available range of days. It has proxy groups. This is the default group, the shader. Proxies from the USA one, and you can also specify, you can have custom proxies, automatic, selected proxy groups as well. And then you can basically do max listings and max concurrency, right? Limit the amount of results you want, omit the setting for no limit, okay? And so for testing, I would recommend setting a limit so you're not, getting, lots of results before you're able to see whether it's working the way you want it to work. So you typically set like a 5 listing limit just to see the sample data first before I basically go out and do a more serious kind of scraping work. So we have max concurrency, limit points, timeout seconds. So this is the generic look. Now let's go to our tasks. And I already ran this Airbnb scraper, and you can see it succeeded, and it ran for 2 minutes. So we're gonna go to my tasks, and I'm going to show you how I ran it, right? So right now you're looking at my instance of this actor, right? So basically a task is a running instance of an actor, right? Actors are all generic, meaning like we all have access to the same actors, regardless of where we are. If you all go to Apify, we're going to have the same access to all the actors. But the tasks are obviously going to be different because our requirements are different. So for instance, I set my to location Lagos, Portugal. I set my to maximum reviews. I left this open. I put the check-in dates differently. So check-in date is December 5th. Checkout date is December 10th. I also set the prices different, right? I left the minimum price at 0, but I set the maximum price at 30. Currency as USD. I believe it's different in the actor. I believe it's some other currency. But I left this pretty much a default. I left this at the shader group. Max listings, like I mentioned before, I set it to 5. Max concurrency, I set it to 50. Limit points. So all of this was a default. And basically, these are my settings, right? So if I go into settings, you can see that a lot of these are defaulted, right? So this input is basically the input that I want. So I can basically run it, and it's going to create another instance. So if we go to runs, you can see that I have one run here. Actually, it deletes runs, and all associated data are deleted after 7 days. So basically on this low-cost plan that I'm on, it deletes it after 7 days. I believe if you upgrade to some of the higher plans, you'd have more data retention. So it could be 2 weeks, it could be a month, or maybe several months. And so right now, you're basically seeing one of my recent runs. And I can basically go in here and I can look at the details, I can get data, I can learn what's going on. There's a lot of interesting stuff. So it basically started at 12:40 and then ended at 12:41. So it basically ran for about a minute and a half or 2 minutes if you basically round it up. And it used something it calls CPU units. So it basically used 1/10 of a CPU unit. This is the build of the version. It's all versioned. So you could be, your task could be running off this version, but when they upgrade The next time you run a task, it may be a newer version. It used this memory, and the origin was web, because I basically ran it from the web interface instead of from an API endpoint. And pretty much anything that you do here, you have an API endpoint. So for instance, I have runs here. I can basically go to API and I can run tests. I can run tests synchronously. I can run tests synchronously and get dataset items. This is really good. I can get list of task runs. I can update. I can do all of this using an API endpoint. Okay, and so really, really great, because I can basically do all of this programmatically instead of, from a web interface. So this is great if you are developing apps using your favorite stack, or maybe you're using one of these no-code tools like Bubble, and I do have a lot of videos on Bubble. You can basically search my channel for some Bubble videos, or you're using something else, and it makes it a lot easier. So I don't really need to go to this web interface. I can basically do everything externally from a REST API interface. And so we have settings, we have runs. Now let's click on one of these runs. If you click on the status, you're gonna have details about that specific run, right? So remember, we have actors, which are basically generic pieces of code, generic code that does a certain things that's available to everybody. Next we have tasks, and these are instances of the runs. Okay, and so this is actually one run of this task. Okay, and so if this is the task that I ran, and we have various runs. Okay, because I can modify this data on this task, and I can create another run, and then I can basically go into runs, and I can learn more about it, have some history, compare it with a different run, etc., etc. And so right away we see that the status is succeeded. We have 5 results, which is the hard limit that I set it to. We have a request queue. This was basically a request that it was sending because it needed to get multiple data before it can get to actually the detail page. So in other words, it might do a search request, it might do another request, and then it's going to go to the detail page and actually parse the detail page. And we have the request queue, we have the duration here as well. And so right away at the bottom, well, one other thing I want to show you is, before we kind of go to this area, is that you can click on results, and you're going to go to this data set, okay? And one easy way, and obviously you can get them in as a HTML table, JSON, CSV, Excel. It's very, very flexible. But one easy way to kind of look at results is basically click on preview data, and it's going to show you in line, okay? And this preview shows the last 100 items. We only have 5, which was the hard limit. And right away, we see the 5 items that we got. So I basically did a search for apartments or accommodations in Lagos, Portugal. And right away, we see these 5 accommodations. The currency is USD. I set it from $0 to $30 per night. And it's around there. It's like 11, 12, which I assume is one of the cheapest options, right? And we have the room type, star. So we have all the data from the parser, right? So all these fields are set by that specific parser. So you can basically go out and you can modify that, and you can create a new actor based on this Airbnb parser, and you can use your custom actor that you want. And the reason you might want to do that is maybe you're looking for another field, maybe you're looking for the image field. Maybe we have the URL, but we don't have maybe the image gallery. It doesn't seem like it's here. And so you can basically go out and create a new actor based on your specific requirements. Okay, and so we have this clean data. Next, you can go to log, and you can basically see all the results, right? And this is basically our logging. I can view in another window, and I'm seeing this live as it runs, right? I can download it, I can copy it to clipboard. What I really like about Apify is that they give you a lot of options just to make your life easier, because otherwise I need to basically select it and copy it and select it, well, where I could just basically click on copy to clipboard. It's going to be a lot easier. So this is a really, really nice tool. And this is just one aspect of it, right? I can go to info, I can learn more about it. I have my a lot of details there. My inputs are here. So this is my inputs in JSON view. Lagos, Portugal, true, false. This is check in, check out. This is the request. Key value store. We have data set, and this is the data set we're looking at. And we have the request queue that was basically, updating and changing around as it was basically running, right? So you basically see the requests it was making, explore tabs, PDP listing details. These were all the requests made, and I believe how many requests? 133 requests, right? We also had some pending requests, but those were not executed because we got all the data that we needed. We got the 5 results. So once it got 5 results, it basically stopped, okay? We had a total of 261 requests, but it executed 133 out of those 261 requests. And here's the API, and this is the API for this specific run, right? We have an API where we can execute runs, meaning like if I want to start a new run, I can do it from a web interface, but I can also go to this API and I can do it programmatically. But we also have APIs for this specific run, right? So we have get run, we have get input, get output, get dataset items, right? So if you are looking to basically integrate it with another app, you want to do everything programmatically, then what you want to do is you have a couple of options. One option is you can basically go to this API and run it programmatically, and then use this API to get the results, okay? Because after this finishes, it's going to give you the ID of this task, and then you can basically run get data for this specific task run. Or another option, which is something that I did just for my own testing and kind of playing with the platform, is I basically executed this task from the web interface, and then I basically went to the API, and then I'm basically getting the data using this get dataset items API call, okay? And so that way, you know, I can see that everything is working inside the web interface. But for programmatically, I'm not gonna go out and, you know, get the JSON and look at the CSV files and then, you know, import, you know, save it on my computer and then import into the third-party app that I'm looking to do, whether it's Bubble or something else. I can just basically run this request, this get dataset items, and I will get the data that I need. So this is a really, really professional tool, because if you go to the APIs here, look at this, I can run a task, I can run it synchronously, I can run it asynchronously and get dataset items. Okay, so synchronously meaning it's gonna wait, right? It's gonna run it and wait. I can run it, I can just run it. I can also get list of task runs, and I can update a task, okay? If you're doing something asynchronously, then once you execute that request, it's going to return back to, and that means you need to poll constantly, basically looking at, so you can basically run something like get list of task runs and get and see if your task is still running, okay? And that means you have to constantly check, or you can just run it synchronously where it's just going to block and give you the result once it finishes. It's really up to you. So there's a lot of options. You can get input, update input, get less run dataset items. There's a lot of interesting things that you can do. And once you run it, you can go back to your runs, and you have an API here. Now this API, it's going to follow a certain form. Okay, it's going to have a task ID that you're essentially going to get here, and then you basically execute the specific name of the request there, right? So it's all going to be very, very simple. You can go to the API reference to learn more, but if you have any experience with REST APIs, it's very, very simple. So take a look at this. This is actually a good idea. It's always a good idea to look at documentation, because they are basically going to cover how everything works, so that you have a general idea what's possible with this tool and what's not possible. Obviously, I don't recommend getting stuck on the documentation part, because you want to start, experimenting with this. You want to start, playing with it. And right away, I had an app that I wanted to build connected to Bubble. I actually have a video on that below, so if you want to see how the whole app is built, you can check it out. But I had an idea that I wanted to do, and so for me it was a no-brainer. I don't really even look at the documentation. Right away I saw that there's an API here and there's an API here, and then I can basically get the data. I can click on this and I can see the output right away from the web interface. So if I'm seeing the output that I need, that means that once I do this programmatically, it's going to work out fine. And so we also have storage. Storage is a bunch of sessions. Okay, we have something like Amazon sessions here. Unnamed key value stores are deleted after 7 days. And so a lot of my sessions were obviously deleted since I ran it previously, and they're not here. Then we have proxy, and this is where you have your proxies, the proxies that you're using. You can buy, you can use their proxies that they're providing. You can go out and find proxies elsewhere, and look at this. There's different proxy groups, etc., accessed host. There's a lot of information. Last but not least, we have the marketplace, and this is where people are This is where you can basically request a custom solution for your web scraping, data extraction, or web automation project from Apify approved developers, okay? And so you can basically submit a new project and somebody can go out and build this for you. They can bid it, they can build it. And so if you are not proficient in development, in actually writing this piece of code, this actor, and so you can basically request it on the marketplace, and somebody's gonna go out and get back to you, and you can work out a price and just go from there. This is especially great if you're working on a big project. You don't have time to kind of figure out the API, the languages and all that. You just want something to be built, and you're willing to pay for the convenience and for the time saved. And so this is a quick overview of Apify, and Apify is an amazing tool. I only discovered it fairly recently, and I've been playing with it ever since. And in my view, this is a professional tool to get any kind of data, right? You can get Google search results, right? So that means you can possibly build some kind of an SEO tool, right? Where you're going to show clients positions in the Google search results. These are called SERPs. And you can build a lot of tools. You can build a booking web app. You can build an app that interfaces with Airbnb, interfaces with Amazon, without really worrying too much about dealing with their API or even having access to their API if they do have it. And so I'm going to be making a lot more videos about Apify in the future, because I look forward to using this tool in a lot of use cases for a lot of interesting projects. So if you want to see more videos about Apify, integrating Apify with other tools, no-code tools, things like that, then you definitely want to subscribe to this channel for future videos. But in terms of this video, this is all I wanted to cover today. Really, really hope you enjoyed it, got some value here. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, and I will see you in the next video.